it with like the camera angles and stuff, but it so feels like what's going on inside. And I also really love how, I mean, even though it's not a silent film, it really feels like it.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, the fact that it was about agoraphobia, I had a neighbor growing up who was agoraphobic, and for a lot of years we didn't even know if she existed or not. So I've kind of always been fascinated by it. And then I think also with this year, um, isolation and physically, but also like artistically being isolated. It's just, I feel like this piece really spoke to, yeah, where I was in the world right now. Just trying to get into the mindset, and especially since this was film, my real concentration of effort was in like just not playing it like I would for theater. I mean, there would have been like the blocking and things, and there would have been much more. There would have been the repetition of rehearsal, whereas like I feel like this was just like finding that place and like staying there because it's film, so you kind of have to stay in it through the filming process differently. Yeah, like in theater, like you can live through something and then let it go, whereas like film, you kind of have to hold on to it in a different way. There are certain aspects of uh, the feelings that agoraphobia brings up that like are very close to like panic about being outside that I still have. The things it does provide is like an opportunity to try this like mostly quiet 15-minute exploration of walking down the stairs, which is like you wouldn't necessarily get on like a more produced level,
yeah.
because they would be like, it's this is too small of a story, even though it contains a lot in it. For this film, I'm really happy. I mean, I love watching it. Like I've seen it a couple of times now with you, and I still like watching it. I'm still like interested in like, um, yeah. I don't know. I don't really sit in judgment of this piece anyway. It's an interesting question. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I had any moment where I was like lingering with this piece afterwards. But I feel like this piece definitely gave me a place to put a lot of my feelings and a lot of my frustrations with, um, you know, being isolated from, theater and like things I love to do. And so like, um, I feel like I put the stuff I wanted to into this piece, and I'm happy with that, and I'm really happy with the result. Ultimately, it's going to help the various performance arts realize that we're not actually as separate as we pretend to be. I feel like it will actually maybe help like multimedia productions exist. This fringe thing that happened on the side and was experimental, but I feel like a lot of people have like been like, no, this is a valid way for certain outreach and certain content. Um, or that we can take elements we learned from having to use this medium, and like I feel like things we've learned through this can affect rehearsals or performances in the future. I definitely feel like there's going to be more of an acknowledgement. Maybe I don't have to come in for the first audition.
Yeah,
Maybe I can just always send it in, which is was already happening. Self tapes were already happening, but I feel like there's going to be much more of an acknowledgement of like, this actually has a benefit in some ways, and we don't always need to you know, rent the rehearsal space. But on the other hand, it also makes me feel like, to me at least, I'm like so ready to be on stage. I'm so ready for a rehearsal process like in the space with people again, because like the energy is just totally different. It's a term that comes from like my early days, like 20 years ago in theater, where it was like even just have which having film in theater was like kind of a big deal for a while, and so there was like a lot of people just called it multimedia because they didn't know what to do with
Oh,
it. So I guess like that's where I come from, a blending of like realizing like um, this whole issue of like, as if it's recorded, does that immediately make it film or television?
mm,
I don't know. I do think like this has shown us that like there are there are things that are film that are like not exactly film or TV, that there is like this in
yeah,
between space between theater and film. Shakespeare companies that like do outdoor Shakespeare, and they're like, yes, ultimately our plan is we want to do outdoor Shakespeare, but like we can also do like more of this during like the winter months when it's cold, and like so there is an acknowledgement that like I think that even though we're using this right now as because this is the only way, I do think there's an acknowledgement that there are good things that maybe we can glean from it. I think a lot about it because like I've done like some like immersive theater, and it's like
mm,
stuff like that. I don't know if I would want to even go to like something like Sleep No More now, even though I loved it before. You know what I mean? Like I loved going to it. I loved the like being, the like on restrictions that there is of like exploring the space there. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how those type of theater experiences exist again. That's like I can conceptualize how like if you have a proscenium, and like I can conceptualize like how you space audience, that I get. It's the like other things that are more outside the box, which is the stuff that I really love,
yeah,
that I question of like if it's not strictly defined, um, like in a proscenium, you know, we're so like it's unfortunate because I feel like the last 10 or 15 years there's been a lot of exploration of like what an audience is and how you move them through a space and a story, and that I don't know how we continue. But for example, that the fact that there was like 18 people on stage, was it 18, 15 people on stage? There's a
yeah.
lot of people, but like even with that, I feel like to redo it you would have to reconceptualize it and put it in a larger mansion and like create more space, even just for the cast, without even thinking of where you're putting the
Yeah.
audience. Immersive theater was like such a hot thing, and I feel like that's why there was like there was like those things that were wanting to change anyway, but I feel like this is like, no, now we have to like relook at everything.